Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32
Welcome to Space Podcast. It's finally that time of the week where we get to talk all about the exciting stuff that has happened in the space world with my amazing co-host, DJ, because he's the only co-host here. I'm just the special guest. Technically, not anyone important here, because everything I've said is a joke. Hi, DJ, how are you doing?
Great, how are you doing, Nick?
You know what? No one ever asks me that. Thank you, DJ, for taking time to ask me how I am doing. Everyone asks me where I am or what I'm doing, but no one asks me how I'm doing. I appreciate it. I'm doing well. Life's good. I'm enjoying my little furry friends here. Got some new wind. What are those things called?
Wind socks? No, that's a
wind socks. Not. It's like I was gonna say wind socks, but
dead cat. Dead cat.
Could you try again?
Yeah, dead cats. There you go. For my microphone, so I got enough of little gray-haired pom-poms that makes me think I am turning into Horton Hears a Who. But yeah, space news, dude. We need to sing "Happy Birthday" to a special person.
Oh.
On a count of 3. 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Elon. Happy birthday to you.
And if you're still here after that awful monstrosity, let's get into the news.
Hey! Well, Elon celebrated his birthday not just in style with an amazing a cappella by yours truly, but he celebrated his birthday over the weekend with a very exciting looking party up on the high bay in Starbase. Well, that little thing that we've seen a couple times. They turn on the lights up there on occasion. Basically, it's a bar up above high bay. You know, the small place where, you know, they're building the ships that are going to get humanity to Mars. There's a bar up there, and it looks like Elon had the inaugural party on his 50th birthday up there, because we did see some mood lighting up there. Not on his birthday, but the day before.
Yeah, because
today
was his birthday.
Today is his birthday. Very timely. This episode will not be timely, though. It'll definitely be updated. Although last week, we did a good job last week. I was surprised. By the time I hit publish last week, there were no stories that we talked about that had become outdated.
What was
I think
it, like
we
a
just
day and
got
a half
lucky.
after we recorded? That's got to be a record.
It was like a day and a half. It was a record on turnaround time, and it was also a record on nothing being outdated. So we got like multiple records here. I think we should start keeping track. Yeah. So Elon celebrated his 50th birthday. In one moment, it's exciting, and in the other moment, it's getting a little worrisome, because if Elon wants to die on Mars, we got like realistically 30 years left. Yeah. Hopefully more, but likely about 30 years left. And I would hope that SpaceX could do something in the next 30 years, given what they've done in the past 20-something years. But we will see. Yeah, so happy birthday to Elon. Wish you the best of success, and very happy birthday. Down in Starbase, though, it wasn't just Elon's party. I'm sorry. Elon's party was overshadowed by an even more exciting event.
Now, what could
we
that
have,
be?
for the first time, as a space community, seen with our naked eyes, the RVAC system. That's right. We got Raptor vacuums down in Starbase. Now, I know it's crazy to think that those SpaceX employees are going to be vacuuming up the dirt with Raptor-sized vacuum machines, but that's what they're doing. It's kind of crazy. No, what did we see down there, DJ?
Well, we did see a vacuum, but you see, if it were to do any work on the ground, it might just kind of go kablooey. Yeah, so if you've seen images of the sea level Raptor engines, imagine that, but like twice to 3 times the diameter of the bell. So stand up and then add 1 or 2 of you to it, and that's the bell diameter.
We know I'm exactly 180 meters tall.
Yes.
So that's like extremely tall in normal people terms.
So
yeah, man. That is, my mind was blown when I saw that. So I believe it was Trevor Gray who posted that picture first for NASA spaceflight. So congrats to him for getting that up and spotting it. But yeah, it is a Raptor that's been vacuum optimized. For those who don't know what exactly the difference is, an engine, a rocket engine, requires a certain ratio between the size of the bell and the throat. And that is based on the ambient air pressure. And so when you're at sea level, we experience 1 bar of pressure because that's how we define it. I know, crazy. But when you get higher in the atmosphere, there's less air pressure, obviously, because you're approaching a vacuum. And at some point, the air pressure, the ambient air pressure is so low that you have, I believe it's called flow separation,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
On the bell. And that leads to a lot of inefficiencies. And it just means that the ISP, or the specific impulse of a given sea level optimized engine, will decrease significantly once you get up to higher altitudes. So because of that, for a long time now, SpaceX has been developing Raptor vacuum optimized engines of the Merlin and of the, I believe it was the Peregrine, was what they called their Falcon 1 second stage motor. And those are engines with larger bells, a larger bell diameter to throat ratio thing. I'm not a rocket scientist, so for legal reasons, everything I've ever said is a joke. Please correct me in the comments below. The way that works, though, is that you get a higher ISP. So basically, you get better fuel economy out of this engine. Yeah. So you get more thrust for the same amount of propellant when you're at those higher altitudes. So because of that, SpaceX has included on the Starship design a set of 3 RVAC engines and a set of 3 regular Raptor engines. Yep. And they're for different phases of flight. So the 3 regular Raptor engines are there for, in our case with the hops that we've been seeing, for the takeoff and the landing burns. But for future versions that will be integrated in an orbital setup, they will just have they'll just be using the regular Raptor engines for the landing burn, not necessarily for anything else. But those vacuum optimized engines are there for being in a vacuum. So they're bigger, they're meaner, they're more powerful. I believe that Elon said that the current one that is out there right now has over 378 seconds of specific impulse, which, wow, for anyone who knows anything about rocket engines, that is an extremely efficient engine.
He actually replied to Tyler Gray's tweets.
He did, yeah. And they're still shooting for 380 is the long-term goal. And that has been the long-term goal for a while. But seeing how they're like within 2 seconds, and they're on their literal first prototype of this engine. I mean, I guess they could have been a few ruds over at McGregor that I wouldn't necessarily know about, but the first one that's made it down to Boca has within 2 seconds of specific impulse of their target is very impressive. Yeah. So good on you, SpaceX team.
So if you don't know why exactly, other than us saying flow separation, they have these larger cones at the bottom. It's the air pressure down at sea level actually compresses the gas that is being shot out of the rocket nozzle. So as we lose air pressure, this stuff expands. So it becomes less efficient if you have a smaller rocket nozzle. So whenever you go to a larger rocket nozzle for a more vacuum optimized design, it allows it to shoot everything out faster. Now, if you were to use a vacuum optimized rocket nozzle, at sea level, you would literally have the air pressure sneaking up into the skirt and then creating that flow separation, which would then create wobbles and stuff like that.
Just ask the RS-25. Space Shuttle main engine had major problems with that because it was an engine that was designed to work at sea level and at altitude.
It had to have a lot of bracing.
It didn't do either great.
A lot of bracing.
Yeah.
But whenever they ship this down there, have you ever seen those car haulers that have like the tops that just kind of roll back?
Yes.
Yeah, this was just a enlarged version of that on an 18-wheeler, and the RVAC is, the bell is almost as high as a typical 18-wheeler trailer. So, like I said, basically two people stacked on top of each other. Yeah, basically two people stacked on top of each other. It's pretty tall. So
yeah.
It arrived in stock.
I should also mention this RVAC engine has the exact same plumbing as the typical Raptor engine. Also, likely within reason, the same thrust plate. So the injector stuff. So basically, all this is just a bigger nozzle within reason. I mean, there's some changes, I'm sure, but for the most part, it's just a typical Raptor engine that has a bigger bell on it.
Yeah.
And it's that bell that drives the efficiency gains that we're talking about. And so, yeah, appreciate that. Good context there, DJ.
Yeah.
Big engine.
So, we got an RVAC down in Boca.
So, we got an RVAC down in Boca, which means we are 11 inches. I'm sorry.
11
I don't know,
inches?
I have a wagon. Inches. Yes, it's a new word that I just made up. Talk to the people over at the dictionary. We get them to add that. By our best count, between the Shotwell video that we saw and what we've actually seen down in McGregor and has now arrived in Starbase, we have about 11 engines produced so far. The goal for the first orbital test would be, 34, I guess. What was that? 29 plus 6?
Yes.
Maybe 35.
Something like
so
that.
35. I do math on the fly. I'm great at this stuff. So we're not really close specifically, and I know Elon said that they picked up the pace to about one every 2 days. I guess I just haven't seen the fruits of that yet. He said that about 4 or 6 weeks ago, something like that.
Yes.
And this is the first Raptor we've seen down there in a while. We have had 2 other Raptors, I believe, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, showed up, just regular sea level Raptors. But other than that, they don't really have a big stockpile of this yet. So we'll see as the month goes on here. But as we're at the end of June, I'm going to officially say here, barring SpaceX picking up the pace in ways that I can't imagine, and just having truck after truck after truck of Raptor show up down in Starbase, I'm saying the July timeframe is a little optimistic.
Yeah, it's a little far away.
Even though Shotwell did say that they were still targeting July, I'm just like, what? Really? I don't think so.
No.
You might be trying to tell your employees that you're targeting it, but
I
don't think that's going to happen.
I can't remember if it was on Twitter or just an article, but it's more or less just a goal and a let's keep spirits high thing for the reason she said that. And as Nick is currently dying over there.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on. I got like something in the back of my throat right on my vocal cords.
No.
It's weird because I've been fine all day. I've done a couple shows today and videos and stuff, and maybe it's just hoarse voice. I don't know. We're gonna power through it though.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely. Timeline, I guess, for me is a big question mark right now. Whether or not they're actually gonna be able to make that optimistic July. Probably not going to happen, and I'd say possibly at this point August might be getting on the optimistic side.
Yeah, it's probably
I was honestly
gonna be
thinking
towards the end of August. I'm assuming at least at earliest.
At the earliest, probably at the very earliest, middle of August. I could still see that happening, but they need to pick up the pace right now, like we haven't seen. And it's honestly possible that they could have, right? So Elon tweeted about a month ago that they picked up the Raptor production pace. I know personally that there are tons of stuff. There's tons of stuff going on down in Hawthorne with the Raptor production stuff. But whether or not that's going to correlate to a faster cadence, they can build as many Raptors as they want, but if they test them in McGregor and 9 out of 10 of them blow up, then
yeah, that's not a good track record at that point.
Exactly. No, that's not the track record, but that's an example of you can't just shoddily build things fast in spaceflight. So. We'll see how the success rates of these are coming out of McGregor. This could have been like the first of like a queue of 20 Raptors that were in the test stands, because McGregor isn't quite as well covered as Starbase is. There are some locals down there who typically report when they hear test firings and the duration of them, so we can kind of piece together what engine it was or whatever, because the durations and loudness and stuff. But yeah, we don't really know exactly what's on the stand down there right now at the moment, but hopefully there's a stockpile.
I'm actually curious. I've never looked to see where McGregor was in relation to everything else.
It's north of Starbase.
I think any point in the U.S. is more north than Starbase.
Ask the Keys. I'm pretty sure the Florida Keys are south.
Okay, maybe that. maybe that very, very low part of Florida.
Or actually, no, South Point in Hawaii is lower.
Okay.
Yeah, McGregor, Texas is.
So it's kind of over. It's between Temple and Waco.
Yeah.
So
okay.
it's like 3/4 of the way to Waco from Austin. So yeah, you got McGregor. You go south, you hit Austin, and then Elon makes another trip for the day back down. Go down to Starbase. But that's gonna be a long trip because you got to go down through San Antonio, all the way down to Corpus Christi.
He flies.
And then down to Brownsville.
He flies. Come on. I think it's kind of funny. Remember how Elon used to have Hawthorne down in SoCal in the LA area? He had the Boring Company there too, I believe. Yeah. And then he had Tesla up in
Fremont, up in San Francisco.
Fremont, yeah. And then he would do that commute. Like that was like, I remember news stories of like Elon's crazy commute, just like 2 private jet flights every day. And I'm beginning to see a pattern here. Yeah, if he goes to McGregor and then to Austin and then
that San
down
Francisco
to
to Los Angeles trip, I mean, depending on traffic, actually it's like, I mean, if it was driving traffic wise, it's like probably close, if not a little bit longer for the California trip.
Yeah.
So,
but I just kind of find it funny that he's kind of recreating this kind of all scattered approach. He's not doing everything in one spot. It's like Tesla's over in Austin and testing's over in McGregor. And anyway, so barring back on the RVAC thing, barring there being a stockpile of like 20 Raptors currently in different phases of testing, which is totally a possibility, we're definitely not anywhere close to our goal of 35 Raptors, unfortunately. But we have one more than we did yesterday, which is really important and really huge and awesome. So we got another one down.
Yep.
I don't know what the current countdown there is in Boca. I'd imagine we have a few laying around. I need to figure that out. I'll add that to my notes for tomorrow at Starbase. Tomorrow at Starbase. That's the new show you want to tune into. Tomorrow at Starbase. We get you tomorrow's news today.
Oh man. So yeah.
I actually drive a DeLorean. So RVAC obviously had successful testing over in McGregor. Another thing that did have successful testing down in Starbase was BN 2.1, that little test tank that little test tank that got all of our hopes up for a really imminent Booster 2 BN2, Booster 3 BN3 test flight.
Oh man.
Which we'll get to those names in a second because I hate myself. Yep, so it had completed for sure 2 cryo pressure tests. There might have been a third one that I'm not recalling at the moment, but those are there to test the welding and manufacturing process of the booster. Slightly different than the Starship, minorly. You know, it's the same type of steel. I believe it's just a little bit thicker, stainless steel, to allow the more pressure of having a whole Starship sitting on top of it. The other, what's up?
Do you hear that train?
You're just, I do. You're just looking like some boogeyman just opened your door and was like holding a gun to your head or something. You're like, what's going on? Yeah, so BN 2.1 had some successful tests. We haven't heard anything specifically from Elon or anyone at SpaceX how those tests went or what pressure they were testing them to, but we saw the tank get frosty and then the tank get unfrosty a couple times and nothing went kaboom, so
hey,
I assume that's good news.
They kept it frosty.
Hey, kept it frosty. Yeah.
Although even if
I was
it
kind
did
of getting a little
explode,
too excited.
it would still be frosty, just everywhere.
It would be a big frosty explosion. Be a winter wonderland down in Starbase. They also had attached those thrust simulating thingies, those thrust pistons or what do they call it, the hydraulic things. So
nice.
Whatever BN 2.1 went through was pretty rigorous testing, and it seems to have passed. So that's good. But what I will say, and I don't know if we had this on the news here, but we did. Unfortunately, the booster that we've been talking about has had a name change, A, but also B, it's likely not going to be a flight candidate anymore, which is a little sad. But likely that's due to BN 2.1 testing. I'd imagine the tests were successful because nothing went kaboom, but they probably found some stuff that they wanted to change.
Yeah.
And so BN3, we talk about the names here. Used to be BN2. That's what this thing started out. The same piece of flight hardware used to be BN2. Then it got changed to Booster 2 from Elon tweeting a picture of Booster 2 and Starship 16 or whatever he called it, SN16 actually. He was calling it SNs at the time. And then for some dumb reason we decided to call it BN2 or BN3. I don't remember why we called it that, but now it's Booster 3 again, and I'm just lost. Like, why do we need to have 4 names for one thing? But anyway, whatever.
Yeah, it's
we need like an
just
international
kind of
standard setting board.
rough.
It is sadly
Well,
rough. Yeah, so that's likely not going to be flight hardware anymore. Elon did, I believe it was Elon who confirmed it. Someone confirmed it who was pretty legit. I believe it was Elon who
Yeah, I
said
think
that
it
that's
was,
not going to fly. And they're moving on to SN4, which makes sense because we did see Booster 3 be moved from one side of the high bay to the other. So SN16 was moved out of the high bay last week to the display stand. And then Booster 3 was moved to where SN16 used to be in the high bay on the other side. So I'd imagine they're starting work on BN4, Booster 4 fairly soon. Likely implementing the changes from BN 2.1. And hopefully that'll be a flight candidate. I know they can throw one of these together fairly soon. So as far as timelines are concerned, I'm not concerned about this. For me, the holdup still is the Raptor production. So we'll see how fast they can do that.
They know how to
but
make some
imagine
wings and stack them together at this point.
They've been doing it for almost 2 years now. They're almost experts. Yeah. Something that you can't just do with these Starships, though, is last I checked, they're kind of heavy. I mean, even when they're empty, they're kind of heavy.
Well, you just need a gym rat that does legs every day, right? Just kind of.
I skip leg day every day, so I don't think that I could help with that. So I don't. I actually skip most of the
what do
gym
you
days
think
to
a
begin with,
solution
but
could be then, Nick?
I was thinking they could hire Obi-Wan Kenobi to just use the Force, or maybe Master Yoda.
Smart.
That's probably a good idea.
You see, I was thinking
get
more
Loki.
Master
They
Chief.
could probably get Loki.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
But I was thinking
just
Master
get Loki
Chief.
to stop things from falling. Yeah.
Mm.
Master Chief. Yeah, we could do a lot of things, but more realistically, they'd probably use a crane. But unfortunately, Franken Crane is not qualified to be in the blast area or something.
Yeah.
Who would have guessed?
Also, I'm pretty sure that crane is fairly expensive. Probably more expensive than these test articles that they're building. Maybe minus the Raptors themselves, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure each one of the fully stacked Starship test articles only costs about $5 million. So expensive, yes, but not Franken Crane expensive.
That crane is probably 10 to 20 million, as large as it is.
I didn't check when I did the research of the LR 11350 or whatever that thing was. I can't remember, but I don't remember the name or the price. But so what SpaceX decided to do is, they're a very vertically integrated company, so they know what their other teams are doing. Instead of going out and buying some expensive hoist system to be able to move the Starship on the launch tower, that's the plan. The launch tower is going to be able to integrate the Starship on top of the Super Heavy at the launch pad. Instead of going out and finding and sourcing and contracting for some really expensive hoist system, did you know that oil rigs typically come with like really good hoists, DJ?
Ah, yes.
Yeah. And does SpaceX own an oil rig? Or two?
Well, let me check that real quick. Yes, they own 2.
Oh, there you go. SpaceX should call SpaceX and ask to borrow a hoist.
Well, I think they're in luck because I'm pretty sure they're disassembling 2 of them right now.
Perfect. And are they assembling 2 launch towers right now?
Ah.
Wow.
Yes, they are.
This is perfect.
So I
you're
actually
so corny, it's
saw a
unbelievable.
glimpse of this earlier today, and I was not actually sure if I read it right because I was in the middle of working. So I'm glad you actually cleared that up for me. I was like, hey,
what?
The hoist coming from, was it Phobos?
Yeah, from what I can tell, that's the case. I've heard a couple people say that it's from Phobos, but that wasn't from SpaceX or an official source. It does make sense, though, because this is the same kind of hoist that's used on oil rigs like Phobos. So, and it was used. It's not a new hoist. You can tell it's been used.
It's been around the block.
So these hoists, though, are not just for giggles and pretty looks as much as I'd like to imagine that they are. these hoists are able to lift. I don't have the number right up in front of me, and I was trying to stall for a second. Unfortunately, I don't have the number, but it can move a lot of weight, and that weight is equivalent to a fully stacked Starship without the fuel. So you should be able to get the booster and Starship moved,
Yes.
which will help with shock absorption of the booster landing, assuming they get that working out, and also the integrating of the fully stacked rocket. This hoist, basically, it's a 4-motor. It's whatever company made this hoist, and I'm really regretting not leaving that tab open. Unfortunately, I did close the tabs.
I can't even find a picture of this thing right now.
Yeah, it's the red hoist. It had a name, and I totally mentioned it in my Today at Starbase episode the other day, but I don't have the tab open anymore. But it's a 4-motor electric drive hoist, which has 2 huge brakes. The brakes, DJ, on this hoist are 48 inches in diameter.
What?
Yeah, you thought your truck brakes were big at 22 inches or something. 48
Dude.
inches in diameter,
Dude.
just brakes, and they have two of those brakes.
Oh my God.
Typically, this hoist is used to raise and lower drilling equipment from the seafloor on an oil rig. So that's where they're lifting up the drill head, the connection tubing, conduit,
you got that
pipes,
like
all that
mile
fun
and a
stuff.
half long stack of metal tube that's running down there. They got to lift up.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, it's kind of heavy, So yeah, that's what they typically use this for, and SpaceX will be using that for lifting Starship. So they mounted it to the bottom of the launch tower because it's a hoist. It's just pulley systems basically, so they can put the hoist basically wherever they want on the property within reason. Yeah. And they put it at the bottom of the launch tower to keep it protected on the opposite side from the launch noises. And so they'll be running cabling and hoist. We're not really sure how it's all going to look at the end, but it's coming together.
I'm also sure that's fairly smart in structural load analysis as well, because you're not necessarily pulling against some of the main structural beams. You're down there on the ground. So, I mean, yeah, you'll have the pulleys attached to the structural beams, but I mean, you don't have all that weight of the actual hoist itself sitting on it, as well as being pulled through it as well. So that was kind of, I didn't think they were going to do that, but after I saw it put down there, that makes the most sense. So,
man, sorry, I was really hoping I could pull up this because I found this really cool spec sheet from the manufacturer that gave the weight, all of the deets about it, and it's not even coming up in my history because it was a couple days ago, and it was a lot of researching ago.
Wow.
But yeah, so we'll chalk that up to go research it yourself because we're not in charge of you researching stuff.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating that I'm this close.
While you kind of try to look at it for a little bit more. So that wasn't the only thing that got put onto the launch tower. We had our 6th segment of the launch tower installed. Yes. Another segment.
How many are we going to install in total, though?
It looks like about 8, as we've said a few times.
So we're almost done.
We're almost there. So then once this gets done, then we get to see the fun stuff, which is all the piping and tubing and cabling and all the stuff that makes rockets go up whenever they're on the launch pad. So yeah, the 6th segment was installed this past week, and we have the 7th segment rolling out as well. So I imagine it's already out there tonight. So I imagine it's going to be up there probably by Wednesday or Thursday. As fast as they've been moving.
I found it. I found it. Thanks for stalling, DJ. Can we go back to the hoist?
And back to our previously scheduled hoist program.
Back to our previously scheduled hoist program. So it's called the ADS-30Q. It's the model number. It has 6,000 horsepower. It has a lifting capacity of 164,000 pounds. So that is basically an unfueled, fully stacked Falcon 9. So it's a Falcon 9 minus the fuel with the second stage and payload. So that's likely going to be about the equivalent of a unfueled Starship, and then the booster separately. So definitely going to be a huge thing. It's going to be a 4-motor, so it has 4 1,150 horsepower motors.
Jeez.
And 2 gearboxes. It's a massive thing.
This is the biggest
ADS 30Q.
Biggest one on this sheet, and that kind of
it's the biggest one they sell.
Yeah, that 164,000 pounds turns out, for anybody that might know metric that is listening, 74.39 metric tons. So
still only like 10% of what the Franken crane can lift, but impressive. Put that in perspective.
Franken crane has probably like 10 of these. That's like twice the size. You know.
I mean, about. I think it does 1,135 or something.
Oh,
anyway,
this is also water cooled, or it has the option to be water cooled.
True. Yes, because important stuff. It gets really hot though. Like so, the brakes are there. The hoist is specifically designed to arrest descent and lift things, and they don't run electricity. From my understanding, they don't run the electricity counter to the natural rotation of the payload, right? So if they're going to slow something from falling, they're not going to use the motors to try to pull it up, but not at a full G of pulling up. They're going to use these brakes. Those 24-inch brakes are going to get so hot. I cannot imagine how hot those brakes are going to get.
So looking at this this image again, all the other motors have like, I don't know, so one is 3,600 intermittent horsepower, and it goes down to 3,000 continuous horsepower. The other one is 5,020, and then it goes down to 4,500. The other is 2,000, and it drops down to 1,500. This one is 6,000 and 6,000. So it is the absolute best big boy that this company sells, apparently. It just goes strong either way.
Yes,
So.
it's a big hoist, and I just kind of I'm most impressed honestly that SpaceX just reused it.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the most impressive point of this story. Like it's SpaceX has had some huge equipment in the past, but it's always been like new equipment. You know, SpaceX is more of a time over money. So 9 times out of 10 they just get a brand new piece of equipment because it's just faster, and that's what they're looking for. You know, how fast can you get this on a truck and send it to us? Like, no, Elon's like, how much do I have to pay you to get it on the truck today? It's like, no, that's seriously how they do stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like this time it made speed sense to just reuse what they already had, because it's literally like 4 miles away in the port of Brownsville getting disassembled. So like just toss it on the truck and drive it over here, and we'll figure out how to integrate it.
I think the other oil rig is in Fouchon right now, which is in Louisiana, which is far away. So the other hoist might not be coming for a little bit. It might take a while.
Well, they haven't even started on the second launch tower, so I think we got some time.
Yeah.
They have plans for it, but nothing yet.
Yeah,
so that's kind of crazy. Appreciate you stalling with me there for the hoist, but lots of fun there.
Yeah.
Anything else on the hoist?
Not that I can think of. So, but
cool.
All I do know is, eventually, it might not last very long. That's also another reason it might be reused.
Are you talking about a RUD?
Well, yes, but on the descent, not the ascent. Those 48-inch brakes. You know, if it doesn't go very well, I assume those are not going to last very long.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know. It's gonna be a lot of mass that it needs to take down for sure. We're still not really sure how SpaceX is gonna be doing the landing platform thing. Like catching the booster sounds cool and all.
If we're gonna be honest, I don't even know if
SpaceX
SpaceX knows how they're gonna catch the booster yet.
They have to. Like they have to have ideas of how they want to try to, whether or not they can actually make it work in the real world as opposed to like a simulation.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in a simulation, so I guess who knows. But the idea of them actually being able to do it in the real world is more difficult than not. So we'll see if SpaceX can pull it off. I'm still thinking, since they moved the booster grid fins from 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees to 60, 120, 60, 120, or whatever that is.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
You clearly haven't watched Today at Starbase.
Well, see, if I do
think we talked
that,
about it actually
I'll
2
lose
weeks ago.
all the great surprises in the show.
Yeah, this is true. I won't be able to surprise you with any cool information. Basically, let me grab my Starship model.
Oh, yay. Oh, my Starship model shipped.
Oh,
It
should
be here in probably a week because it's coming from England, or maybe 2.
Nice. So imagine this is the Super Heavy booster, not the Starship. But you know how on the Falcon 9 we have grid fins at 90 degrees from each other? We've seen on the Booster 2, Booster 3, BN2, BN3, they moved the mounting points from 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees to 60, 60, and then 120, 120. So it's more like this.
Interesting.
It's more like this is an X as opposed to just a straight like cross. I don't know if anyone is picking that up or figuring it out, but it's going to allow there to be, instead of it just resting on 2 grid fins, it can rest on all 4 grid fins, which I think makes a ton more sense. You lose a little bit of control authority on the flight part, but what you make up on that, you can reduce and weight on the structural components that just 2 fins need to use. So I still don't know how they're going to catch this thing and reuse it, but we'll see. We'll see.
Hey.
Who knows? Who knows? Hey, Elon confirmed something else. Besides the fact that we have some news here, I also need to mention they renamed the Starship lineup again. Instead of it being Mark 1, Mark 2, or SN4, SN5, SN6, SN7, SN7.1, SN7.2, SN8, SN9, SN10, SN11, and SN15, SN16, and SN17. And then SN20, it's no longer SN20. They've officially renamed it Ship 20.
Oh my gosh. Oh, see, we were doing so good on the SNs, and it sounded so much better than Mark. But Ship?
Yeah.
Why Ship?
You got to enunciate that P, or people are going to be thinking you're saying something else. Ship 20. I do think once we get up past like the teens and 20s, it does sound a little bit cooler to say like, now departing from pad 4, ship 109 to Mars. that sounds a little bit cooler. But at the end of the day, instead of having to say just SN real quick, I have to say ship. Get my pablative in there so no one's confused on what I'm saying. Yeah. So it looks like people are calling it Ship 20. There's obviously no standard naming convention, so some people are going to obviously keep calling it SN until the overwhelming majority of people decide to call it Ship. But it seems like that's the trend at the moment, is calling it all Ship. But Elon confirmed that Ship 20 is almost done and that they're targeting an orbital flight test next. So that removes the ambiguity on what's happening with SN16. We have been wondering about that for a couple weeks now. SN16, Elon had said that they were planning on doing some hypersonic testing with that, but him saying that they're targeting the orbital flight test next would say that they're not going to be doing SN16 next. They'll be doing Ship 20, not SN20.
That's going to take a while for it to kick in.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time for it to kick in. I'm going to be making tons of mistakes, and I'm sure I'm going to hate this, and they'll change it next week anyway to, Elon Musk's silver thingy. And
let's step back from that and continue on.
Okay. All right.
So
there's some new crossbars at the launch pad. Not only did we see some new extension caps put on top of the columns for the launch pad, this week we also finally saw them putting more love towards that launch pad and putting some connecting crossbars between it. And it looks like those crossbars are going to be what they mount the orbital plate on top of. So that's the circular orbital pad thing that we've been seeing them build for like literally 2 months now. I have no idea why it's taken them this long to make it. I mean, must be super complicated.
They must literally be going over every single weld like 10 times or something like that.
It's very unlike SpaceX to have a piece of hardware sitting in the factory yard for like months.
It's been there.
It has been, but they've been working on it like every day. Like you can see pictures of workers working on it. Granted, there are only like 3 or 4 of them on there at any time, but they're working on it. So cool to see that that's getting closer. Last point of Starbase news before we get on to the other news. I know we're already 40 minutes into this show.
It's sunset.
It is sunset right now, and your lights changed.
Yes, they did.
Man, DJ, we talked about this last week.
I know we did.
We did. I'll just keep filibustering because the audio listeners have no idea what we're talking about. I'm sorry, audio listener. We only got one of them. Hi, Mom. Hot gas thrusters were removed from the plans. At the current moment, we've seen some hot gas thrusters down at Starbase. I was really excited about it. I think that was the beginning of the week, maybe over last weekend. We saw some news on the hot gas thrusters. I believe it's also Tyler Gray. He's had a really good track record of finding like awesome Starship finds.
He has. He's
if it's
been
not
lucky
him,
to
don't
get
quote
some
me on
nice,
that.
really good pictures.
I mean, if you sit there long enough, it's all there out in the
You will
open.
eventually run out of stuff to do and just sit there and take pictures of everything and anything until you get a good one.
That's my dream job at the moment. But he found these hot gas thrusters mounted onto the top ring of, I believe it was Booster 2, Booster 3, BN2, BN3. And since that's no longer flight hardware, they've pivoted from the hot gas thrusters, which are basically Super Draco thrusters that can run on Methalox. Obviously not actually Super Draco thrusters, but that size and scale of a thruster with the precision on and off of that, but running on Methalox. They're not ready yet. I believe, DJ, you said you had an update on that?
Yeah, I was trying to scroll through and find that that tweet thread between Elon and Scott Manley to see exactly what he said. But from the sounds of it, it looks like just to save time, they know cold gas thrusters work for what they need it to do. I mean, they're not going to be recovering these boosters first time anyways. They're going to do soft landings. And they've worked enough for the Starship tests or the SN tests, now the ship tests. So, yeah, I think I got it right here. Yep, perfect. So Scott Manley had posted, Starship test flights have all used compressed nitrogen for reaction control thrusters. This looks likely to be the hit-has version. I think that was a little typo there. Little rocket motors using pressure-fed Methalox in gas form. Pressurized gas makes them easier to turn on and off for accurate control. And then Elon replied, cool, but an unnecessary complication for now. These are being removed to speed up the time to orbital launch. So...
yeah, I'm all for that. All for that. So it sounds like we're going to be doing more cold gas thrusters, which are quite a bit smaller. You know, I mean, they're big on human scale, but rocket scale, they're pretty small and weak. So I'd imagine they're going to have to use a bunch of those. Also, that requires a whole different containment system. They have to have different tanks for the cold gas stuff, high pressure tanks, new plumbing. It's going to be a little bit extra complexity for, you know, the end goal. Like they're going to have to do this work and then delete it is what I'm saying, because at some point they do want to get to the hot gas thrusters where it's nice and efficient. Yeah. But yeah, anything to speed stuff up. I think that's it at Starbase.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week at Starbase. Now to DJ for other news, which is probably more entertaining because you get tired of talking about pieces of steel down in the middle of nowhere, Texas. What else is going on in the space world?
So, on Twitter today, I saw a notification from SpaceX, not posted by SpaceX, that residents around the Cape and other easterly counties down the coast might experience some sonic booms and might possibly be able to see a Falcon 9 launch, because Transporter 2 is going up tomorrow as of the day of recording, so I highly doubt that it'll be uploaded before then. But this is the second of the dedicated rideshare missions. This one has 80 some odd payloads on it. Not as many as the Transporter 1 mission, which actually had set the record at the time. But we also, for the first time in a very long time, are getting a return to launch site landing.
Nice.
So
it's been far too long.
If you haven't watched the stream yet, since this video is going to come out after that, definitely go back and watch the return to launch site landing, because it's rare nowadays, being that everything is mostly Starlink and it's getting launched out way farther, so it's going to come back on a drone ship. So this is going to be a really, really nice sight. But more importantly, we have a lot of CubeSats and other small sats that we listed off for like 20 minutes, like 4 episodes ago. We did that episode we did that segment really early compared to what it should have been.
Well, it did get delayed a little bit, so it's not entirely our fault.
But yeah, not gonna rehash all those because that took forever. But tomorrow, if this comes out in the 1% chance before the launch, watch it. If it comes out afterwards, go back and watch that return to launch site landing. It's gonna be a great site. So.
Yes. Very much so.
What do you know about this Progress resupply?
So Progress resupply is basically the Russian resupplying side of the International Space Station. They're just setting up another resupply similar to SN21, which we had a couple weeks ago. Just setting up more beans, band-aids, and batteries. I don't know what they're sending up there, but not bullets. They don't send bean bullets and band-aids up in space. But yeah, so they're just gonna, it's just another resupply stuff. There wasn't anything super exciting about it besides the fact that, rocket going to the space station, that's, always news. So I figured I'd mention it. We do have another Progress resupply mission, I believe, in 3 days from now. So, cool stuff. We do, though, important details. My favorite airplane, DJ, is not the Space Shuttle or the X-15 or the Bell X-1 or even the SR-71 Blackbird. My favorite airplane is the 747. And you know what makes my heart so happy amid a year where all of the airlines seem to be dumping their 747s like hotcakes because of, COVID or something, minor pandemics or whatever, is that Virgin Orbit has decided to pick up a 747 and turn it into literally the world's coolest launch platform. And so Virgin Orbit, given that amazing segue by yours truly, is going to be launching their second attempt at an orbital launch test here in just a few hours, I guess, huh? We're kind of getting up on there. June 30th is the launch target.
Within the day, so.
Within the day, we can measure it in hours if it's under 48. I think that's the rule. Yeah, so they do have some payload. This is not just going to be a mass simulator like many kind of initial tests are. This is going to be a flown payload. They have contracts with Department of Defense, Sat Revolution, and the Royal Netherlands Air Force to lift up some small sats into orbit. I don't know what inclination they're targeting. Do you know what inclination they're targeting?
Give me 1 second. I actually have the pre-launch preview for it. Let's see.
Let's see here. Oh, I misspoke. This is actually the third Launcher 1 flight. This is the second of the year, though. That's what I was thinking of.
Hopefully the second successful one.
So we have our launch point as Mojave Air Spaceport in California, but that's kind of funny seeing how it's an airplane. And that's one of the big superpowers of Virgin Orbit's Launcher 1 is that they can take any inclination, basically. For those you don't know, on any spaceport or place where they launch rockets, you cannot overfly populated areas or really land in general because it's, safety hazard or something to, have blowing up rockets, unless you're China, in which case, you can chuck dinitrogen oxide at people in monomethyl hydrazine and just hope they don't, die. But other people don't do that, and so that limits a lot of the orbital inclinations that you can reach from standard launch pads like Florida. Just recently, via some crazy dog-legging, threading maneuvers, is able to launch into polar orbits. Typically, all that needs to be done over in Vandenberg, which is on the west coast. Yes, sir.
I actually forgot to say, I believe the Transporter 2 is a polar.
Yes, I think it is.
So,
yeah, I think it is.
I forgot to mention that.
But the great thing with this is they can fly it anywhere. It's literally an airplane.
Yep.
So all they have to do is fly out way far into the middle of the ocean and then point it in whatever direction they want to have their orbital inclination at. And so it's really cool because you can hit inclinations that typically aren't available on standard launch sites, or just the flexibility of hitting whatever inclination whenever you need it. So awesome on them. I don't know what orbital inclination they're going to be hitting here, but I'd imagine it wouldn't just be a standard 30 degree. Oh, okay,
yeah,
just polar.
Just says polar.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
And,
polar orbit.
And correction
right there.
for Transporter 2, it's sun synchronous orbit for Transporter 2.
Okay,
So.
sun synchronous. Well, that's almost polar,
But
right?
it's pretty much just a slight
it's
tweak.
not over the poles. It's like, yeah, it's like you're close.
A little bit.
Yeah, so congrats to them and best of success for your launch on June 30th. OneWeb, unfortunately, is going up. As much as I love satellite internet and Starlink, I have to say OneWeb, yeah, you guys are not my favorite company at the moment, but that's okay because you're getting to space, and that's the important thing. They're launching on the 30th as well, right?
July 1st.
Oh, July 1st. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. And they're launching from Vaikomor Cosmodrome?
Actually, it's Vostokshny Cosmodrome.
Okay, there you go.
Site 1S. I don't think that's Baikonur.
I think it's the other one that's not Baikonur.
Yeah, it's the one right beside it or whatever. Close enough.
I don't think it's close.
Oh, well, never mind.
They're not.
Don't take what I say. Everything is relative.
Yeah, me neither. Neither of us know what we're talking about here. This is just entertainment. Yeah, OneWeb here, they have, let's see, basically a Soyuz rocket that they've packed with internet satellites. They're trying to make a constellation similar to Starlink, but since they're not a launcher company as well, they can't really afford to stick, thousands and thousands of satellites in orbit, which I understand. So they are going for, I believe, the 20 to 50 satellite range. And so it's going to be much faster satellite internet than like HughesNet or like one of the traditional geostationary satellite providers, internet providers, but not as good as Starlink. And they've been complaining to the big government.
Yeah, they've been crying. They've been crying about SpaceX being better than them.
SpaceX might, put us out of business because they have a better product than us. Instead of taking time to make our product better or our service more attractive to the end user, we should just complain to the government because that's how everything gets done these days.
But this is going to polar low Earth orbits. They're releasing at 450 kilometers, circularizing at 87.4 degrees, with a final orbit of 1,200 kilometers. So.
Wow, you are smart, sir. That is cool.
Because I definitely did not just read that.
I was also reading that as you read it, so that's why I figured I'd point out that we're both really smart people who know exactly what's going on. Slightly better news than OneWeb, though, is what happened on Friday. We had our successful spacewalks from Astro Thomas and who's the other astronaut? Kimberg, I think? Shane Kimbrough. Kimbrough. They finished rolling out the solar array on Friday. So that was a series of, I believe, 3 spacewalks that they did, all over the 7-hour mark for sure. I believe one or maybe 2 were 8.5 hours, which is a long work day for an astronaut. I believe the record is like 10 hours for the longest spacewalk ever.
The first one had failed. They had an issue with it.
Yep.
That one was on June 16th. It was 7 hours and 15 minutes. The next 2 were actually just slightly shy of 7, so it's 6 hours and 28 minutes, and then 6 hours and 45 minutes.
Thank you for pulling that up. I stand corrected. So. But yeah, what they were able to do was pretty cool. They installed the solar panel. Even some amateur astrophotographers with telescopes and tracking software and knowing when the space station will transit the sun. Someone actually already took a picture. I didn't save it or send it to you, so I don't know who it was, but y'all can look it up later. Someone took a picture of the ISS transiting the sun, and you could see very clearly that the extra solar panel was rolled out and deployed and collecting all of those photons from the sun. So cool. Awesome job there.
This is a nice little graph on this NASA page. There have been 241 spacewalks at the ISS since December of 1998. 185 of those were in U.S. spacesuits, and 56 of those were in Russian spacesuits. That's a cool little tidbit.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
So,
well, any closing thoughts there? I don't know. I think we got through all the space news. Kind of a boring news week, which is why we talked about SpaceX so much. So sorry if you hate SpaceX, but what are you doing here? Oh, we should talk about the SLS. There was big news over at the SLS.
Oh, was it that there's nothing new?
pretty much. They got a new coffee machine, so they can sit there and drink coffee. It's a nice espresso machine.
Oh, man.
You know, with their cost plus contract.
Oh, I guarantee that was $1 million coffee machine right there. Better make me some $1 million coffee.
I am laughing because I'm crying inside.
No, but we do have one more thing that we didn't talk about.
Oh, did I miss something?
Yes.
Oh, you added it, you little sneaker. He added to my list. Oh, DJ. We do.
So just to put the hurt on OneWeb even more, we recently heard that we of course noticed that there was a few less Starlink launches than there had been, like the 2 a month cadence, and now it's been like a month and a half since we've had a Starlink launch, almost 2 months at this point. Well, you know how they said mid to late 2021 for Starlink service for our areas and most everything midway in the US and down? Well, come to find out, you know how it takes a few weeks or a month and a half for these satellites to get into their orbit, being that they're kind of bunched up.
Yeah.
Looks like Starlink will be ready in September.
I really cannot wait, because I am sitting here on the world's most expensive and mediocre internet and just counting down the milliseconds till Starlink.
Yep.
I guess I got to ask you this, DJ. Do you think Starlink will be portable? Like, that's really what I am most looking forward to with Starlink. Just the idea of being able to, go camping or heck, go down to Starbase and just take Starlink with me and be able to just have really good internet.
I'm going to say no, but I'm going to say it first. At first. Because if people just put in an address for an area for Starlink and then take it to another, and a lot of people do the same thing, they're providing these in that area based on how many people they can actually service within the cell and how much the cell can service. So I don't think at first they will be able to be moved, but within the next year and a half, when all the other higher satellites and the more satellites that are in the same shells, a little bit larger shells, go into orbit and kind of get their orbital plane situated, then I believe we'll be able to take Starlink anywhere that we want. And I also think there's probably going to be a smaller, more portable version of Dishy McFlatface 2.0, I guess you can call it.
Yes.
Or Dishy McSmallface.
Dishy McSmallface. Oh, I want to see Dishy McSmallface.
Oh, you almost messed up that one. Yikes. But yeah, so that's exciting news. Nick can have usable internet for the first time in how long?
In my entire life. I mean, I've visited places with good internet.
Oh,
but
yeah. Just to kind of say, I wish this would have happened a little bit earlier. I'm doing a speed test right now, and even while we're FaceTiming and I'm on Wi-Fi with my Mac Mini inside of a metal chassis, inside of another metal chassis, a couple walls away from my Wi-Fi access point, I'm still getting 297 download.
I'm lucky to hit 20 up and 20 down.
Hey, I had it worse than you for a long time.
You did. And bad. I'm getting by. I have decent cell service here. I won't complain, because whenever I actually need fast internet, I get 100 up and 100 down on LTE here, so that's pretty good. So. All right. Starlink faster, please, Elon. I'm waiting. The gif of shoving money in your face. Please let me give you money. Sadness.
Yeah.
All right. Any closing thoughts there, DJ? As I ask for the third time this evening.
I don't know. What can I say that'll give us like another extra minute and a half to go over an hour?
Ooh. DJ, have I ever told you how handsome your eyes look sometimes?
Really?
Yes. They look similar to Elon's.
Oh, that's a compliment. I will take.
That spark of futurism.
Yes, I will definitely take that into a compliment. So,
what's the likelihood of us making it to Mars in the next 5 years? Just real quick to round out our few minutes here.
am I just going and not expecting a return?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I would
say
do that in 5 years.
Okay.
Not expecting a
Cool.
return, maybe not land. Yeah, I could do that in 5 years.
I'll sign up for that flight.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
So my record time says an hour and 15 minutes. So
15 minutes.
no, an hour and 15 seconds. Sorry.
Oh, an hour and 15 seconds. My record time says an hour and 9 seconds, but we talked for about 45 seconds before we started the show. And then we do have like a 20-second intro that plays before the show. So depending on how we do this, maybe I'll have to just like leave some black space at the end to like pad out the runtime so it says exactly an hour. Yeah. But anyway, I've been Nick. That's DJ. Thanks for joining us on another episode of... Wait, what is this show? Talos of Space podcast. That's the show we're doing. Hi.
Nick does too many shows.
Guys. Bye. I do way too many shows.